not in the studio with us, and it appears that he's being impeded by the rain. In order not to waste time, we are going to kickstart the program, and I'm going to be hosting and contributing at the same time. And as soon as Sena Nombo comes to the studio, he will take over. So please bear with us for this very unusual Alhaji and Alhaji. All our panelists are very well known to you. We have with us in the studio today the Honorable Sami Okudzeto Ablakwa, and I need not elaborate on who he is. Everybody knows Sami Okudzeto Ablakwa. We also have with us Solomon Owusu, fighter extraordinary. He has already promised to throw a lot of punches in the direction of the only woman on the panel, and so stay on for the fireworks. I'm also here. I need not introduce myself. I think it's quite clear who all of us are. We have already lost 16 minutes of the program, and we are not going to waste any more time with protocols and so on. This morning we're going to be discussing the controversial constitutional instrument which is to be laid before Parliament, the debate it has generated, and somehow, interestingly, the intervention of Mr. Afari Djan, who used to be the chairperson of Ghana's Electoral Commission. We will then move on to discuss the shortage of vaccines and the intervention of Nigeria, to help Ghana. And then, if we do have time, and I think we should try and have time, we shall be looking at the Ghana Revenue Authority versus Kennedy Agyapong. And the question is, who is speaking the truth? And what are the full implications of the truth in this matter? We will go straight to the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, Member of Parliament for North Tong, and we are starting the discussion with the controversial constitutional instrument. Boss.
Thank you very much, Bigger Boss. It's good to see you, Comrade Kwesi Pratt, and good morning to you. Good morning to the panel, Beatrice and Solo. Good morning to all the distinguished viewers and listeners of Alhaji and Alhaji, the most authoritative Saturday morning political talk show. This morning we are discussing a very important matter. It is a matter that is at the heart of not only our democracy, but it is at the heart of our fundamental human rights as a people. Any discussion about voting rights is a discussion that is a serious one indeed. The right of any people to vote is a right that has been fought for centuries. And it did not come to any group of people on a silver platter. So it is important that the context is understood and the history of voting rights is well appreciated. Indeed, if you look at the history of voting rights, until very recently, if you did not have property, if you were not considered an aristocrat, if you were not from a wealthy background, you did not have the right to vote. So voting rights have not always come naturally to people. The forces who have controlled capital, and who have controlled political power have done everything in their power to withhold that right from the masses. It has had to take decades, centuries of struggle, of concerted effort to attain what became known as universal adult suffrage. Universal adult suffrage did not come to us on a silver platter. If you read the literature on voting rights, just as slavery was fought and defeated, just as colonialism was fought and defeated in many parts of the world, just as apartheid was fought and defeated in many parts of the world, including famously in South Africa, the right to vote has been an unending struggle. And we need to recognize that voting rights is such a serious matter. Even after the masses began to get an opportunity to vote, it came with some restrictions. And many young people may take it for granted today. Many young people may not have averted their minds to the fact that until quite recently, even women, can you believe that? Women were not allowed to vote. If you go to the United States of America, a state like Michigan, it is only recently, in 1918, that women were allowed to vote in the state of Michigan. The first state that allowed women to vote in the United States was Wyoming. And they were the only one for quite a considerable number of years before other states came on board. So can you believe that? That women had to struggle, protest, demonstrate, and insist that they had to be part of the decision-making process before women were allowed to vote. Still in the United States of America, when voting began, blacks were not allowed to vote. Only whites, the Caucasian race, were allowed to vote. It had to take the 15th Amendment in 1870 to allow for blacks to vote in the United States of America. So I'm going through this history so that we can all recognize that throughout the history of humankind, there have been machinations to, as it were, place fetters, impediments, blockades on the path of universal adult suffrage, where everybody will have the right, the inalienable right to vote. So we should not take this discussion lightly at all. Having said that, it is also important to emphasize that if you come to the continent of Africa, the literature is replete that what has been the foremost source of conflict, what has been, if you like, the spark that has led to war, that has led to instability, all kinds of destabilization, at the heart of it has been who has the right to vote. Matters relating to voter suppression, matters relating to the prevention of a whole group of people from exercising their franchise. So when you put all of this in context, the current discussion in Ghana should not be held lightly. It should not be seen as, oh, one of those usual petty partisan altercation or contestation. What we are looking at is a matter that potentially, if not handled well, can destabilize this country. And all the accolades we have received as a nation, beacon of democracy, the shining example, the Black Star of Africa, all of these accolades, we run the risk of losing them. And God forbid. I'm sure none of us here will want history to record that it was during our time when we were active in national politics. It was during our time that the democracy which we have inherited, which the likes of Uncle Kwesi Pratt fought for at considerable cost, imprisoned on multiple occasions, had to be separated from their families. They were even fortunate to survive it. Some disappeared. Some lost their lives. Some were maimed. It should not be said that during our time, we closed the boundaries, the space for such an important fundamental right. Now, if you come to the 1992 Constitution, right to vote, there is no ambiguity at all about Article 42. Article 42 provides that every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. No words could be stronger, could be profound, could be so sacrosanct. Right to vote. He is entitled to be registered. It's an entitlement. Once you are a Ghanaian, you are a citizen, you attain 18 years, you are of sound mind, you have the right to vote, you are entitled to be registered. So the state must do everything in its capacity to make sure that this entitlement, this right, is afforded you. So that brings me to the CI in contention. What is this CI? So the constitutional instrument, which has become the bone of contention, seeks to make the Ghana card as the sole document to qualify one to get registered, to get onto the electoral roll. Now, there are two existing CIs regulating voting in Ghana currently. CI 97 and CI 126. When you go through the existing CIs, the passport is allowed, the guarantor system is allowed. In other words, the existing CI gives you options. So if you don't have the Ghana card, you don't have a passport, you can rely on the guarantor system. What this new CI, this proposed CI, is seeking to do is to close the space to all of those options, is to restrict, is to limit, is to bar anybody who does not have a Ghana card from getting on the electoral roll. In other words, only one option is available. You either have the Ghana card or forget about getting onto the voters register. That is what this new CI is seeking to achieve. Now, this presents So many problems. So many problems. If you consider the existing CI, which we in Parliament, our caucus, insist that is not deficient at all, there is absolutely nothing wrong with it. It should be used. This new, or the proposed CI, I shouldn't say new because it's not been passed, it's not been laid. And I must salute colleagues who have fought for about a year to get this proposed CI off the table in Parliament, so it has not been laid. Now, the guarantor system, which the proposed CI seeks to take out, has been the saving grace for a lot of people. And what is the guarantor system? It's a simple process of vouching for somebody you know. So you can vouch for about 10 people who largely are your family members or you live with, you are in a community with, you know, and there is a process of validation and there are party agents there. So there is really no case of abuse to a large extent. And why I say that is that when the Electoral Commission appeared before us and we asked for evidence, the Electoral Commission has said that the guarantor system has been abused. So they want to have a more credible register. And that is why they want the guarantor system off. We asked for the evidence to be brought. Because in Parliament, we work with evidence. We work with research, with data. We can't just proceed on mere conjecture. So bring us the evidence. To the shock of our lives, what the Electoral Commission brought was 0.02%. And that's all. It was not even up to 10 people, 10 cases that had led to prosecution or that they had taken up. So how can you discredit a system which has worked so well that the so-called abuse is some 0.02%? And the mere fact that your system is able to detect where anybody tries to engage in abuse should tell you that the system is working, is robust. But you see, what even makes matters worse is that the Ghana card that the Electoral Commission decides to rely on to obtain a Ghana card, the guarantor system is used. You can go through the guarantor system to obtain a Ghana card. So, ab initio, this proposal is illogical. It is bereft of common sense. I cannot say it in any way, any other way. If to get a Ghana card, the guarantor system is used, and yet the Electoral Commissioner, Jean Mensah, is telling us that the Ghana card is more credible. How is it that a guarantor system which exists to get on the register, that guarantor system, you say that you don't want it used? And we have gone through all the qualities, the ingredients, the shape and form is virtually the same thing. Now, if you think that your guarantor system is quite inferior to that of the NIA, why don't you strengthen yours? And this is the point that Dr. Afari Djan is making. And here I must commend the former Electoral Commissioner, Ghana's longest serving Electoral Commissioner, Dr. Afari Djan, for not mincing words at all. Clearly, he is a patriot, he is a nationalist. He could have said that, look, I have retired. I'm sought after the world over. Let me just focus on all my international commitments and international consultancies and ignore my home country. But Dr. Afari Djan has not done that. Indeed, the entire electoral architecture we have now, you credit him for the Fourth Republic. All the reforms, he has been at the forefront. Democratization, moving from opaque to transparent ballot boxes, moving from black and white to colored photo IDs, and using BVRs and all of that. He has been at the forefront and has become a foremost authority in the world when it comes to matters relating to elections. And we all know that he's consulted for Nigeria, even in Afghanistan. When Afghanistan was returning to democratic rule, he was asked by the United Nations to go and help them, and so many other prominent assignments that Dr. Afari Djan has been engaged in. For him to say that, look, easy, this CI is not in your own interest. It's not in the interest of the Electoral Commission, and it's not in the interest of the peace and stability of our country. It will lead, in Dr. Afari Djan's own words, he says it will lead to cases of massive disenfranchisement, where many people will be disenfranchised. In the words of Dr. Afari Djan, very clear, very lucid thoughts on this proposed CI. And one can only hope that the Electoral Commission will listen to Ghana's longest serving Electoral Commissioner. Now let's come to the NIA's preparedness and readiness. This whole business of making Ghana card the sole document to get onto the register. Would we have any problem with this new CI, this proposed CI? Would we be so up in arms? Would we be so outraged about this new endeavor if every Ghanaian, as we speak, has a Ghana card, and that this Ghana card is flowing, is in abundance? As soon as you are born, you can just walk to your district NIA office and you obtain the card as pertains in other jurisdictions. You get on the National Identity Register. Your card is printed for you. You have it. Would we be having this discussion? And will we be worried that it will lead to people being disenfranchised? We will not. The current situation as it is, and I have in my hands here the slides from the presentation that Professor Kenneth Agyapong Atefo, Executive Secretary of the NIA, made to Parliament's Committee of the Whole. The presentation he made to Parliament's Committee of the Whole on the 28th of February 2023. So, fresh documents, just a couple of weeks ago. According to the official statistics presented by the NIA, it says that as at February 19, 2023, Ghanaians registered 17,375,861. Ghanaians registered 17,375,861. Cards printed 60,737,734. The cards collected 16,095,331. Now, it is important to recognize that the NIA registration starts from those who are age 15 and above. Now, to qualify to vote under the Ghanaian constitution, you have to be 18 years and above. And we know that on the last voters register, we were about 17 million on the last voters register for the 2020 elections. Now, you have to bear in mind that we have a population growth between 2 and 3% every year. And so that number will go up before we get to the next elections in 2024, next year. Now, if you go through the presentation by the NIA is telling us that as we speak, there are about 3.5 million cards that government owes the vendor, IMS. So they are in a bonded warehouse. Then there's another 541,529 cards that are yet to be printed. So people have gone to enroll, they've gone to register, but their cards have not been given to them. They've not printed the cards. So I know that in my district, for example, in North Tong, they tell me that since April last year, they have only been registering people, but they've not been able to give out issue cards because the headquarters says they are having logistical challenges. And I know that is the situation in many, many districts. So here we are. The organization that you want to depend on, which is, by the way, an inferior organization. The Electoral Commission is a creature of the Constitution. It's independent. And that is why when in Parliament, I keep hearing the Honorable Oseche Mensah-Bonsu saying that no speaker, no NDC MP can stop government business. And he classifies this CI as government business. I say that, look, that is a Freudian slip. It is exposing what is going on. We don't have an independent Electoral Commission. Jean Mensah and her outfit are being seen as an annex to the MPP headquarters or to Jubilee House. So, Che Mensah-Bonsu is telling us that this is government business. How can this be government business? When the Constitution is very, very clear. In Article 46, it says, except as provided in this Constitution or in any other law not inconsistent with this Constitution, in the performance of its functions, the Electoral Commission shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. So, how has the Electoral Commission now become part of the duties of the majority leader and Minister for Parliamentary Affairs? It's come under his ambit. And he is championing their cause and threatening everybody else that you cannot get in the way of government business. So, back to the substantive point. As we speak, the NIA is not ready. This inferior organization to the Electoral Commission is not ready. Remember that this CI was first brought to Parliament 8 months ago. And as I told Jean Mensah when she came for the Committee of the Whole, if 8 months ago we had come along, see the crisis we will have created. We are now in a position where the NIA is not able to issue cards. According to what the NIA has told us, and which has been confirmed by the finance minister, who was also in the committee of the whole to give us assurance. The NIA is owed $117 million. If you do the exchange, that's about 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. In the midst of this crisis, where we can't even pay for vaccines and so many other obligations, is government sure that they can raise 1.5 billion for NIA? And they've been struggling to raise this money 8 months now. Imagine if we had come along and this CI had been passed 8 months ago, we will still be here. Where today, as we speak today, walk to the North Tong office, walk to the Central Tong office, South Tong office, walk to Ho, Akachi. They are not issuing Ghana cards. They don't have the logistics. Viewers, listeners can call. I have constituents who have petitioned me, look, I'm tired of chasing the NIA office. 7 months, 9 months. Go come, go come, go come. The Ghana cards are not ready. I do not see how an insolvent country, a bankrupt country, a downgraded country, a country facing its worst economic crisis in history. We have never gone through debt restructuring. Never in our history. This is the first time. And we are probably the only country on the continent going through debt restructuring now. We are totally broke. Our president is begging other countries to beg China on our behalf so we can get some debt restructuring. In other words, debt reprieve. I can't pay you now. I don't have the money. Renegotiate with me. Let me pay you later. How can this country come up with 1.5 billion Ghana cedis? And you say, let's pass a CI that will put all our hope on empty assurances. Finance minister comes to parliament and says that, oh, you know, I've managed to raise 80 million. Next week, I can get another 20 million. Look at the figures he's mentioning. Joke. We are looking for 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. And all you come and tell us that, oh, you know, we've managed to mobilize some 80 million. We will get 20 million in a few days. That's just 100 million. 100 million out of 1.5 billion is 1.4 billion. I mean, where are you going to get them? Look at how long it has taken. It's taking you 8 months to raise 80 million. 8 months. And you are saying that as responsible lawmakers, we should come along with you and get on board this train seeking to disenfranchise Ghanaians. My conscience will not allow that. My conscience. I mean, I would not even be fit to return to my constituency and hold on to my position as a member of parliament. If you look at the NIA's own words, Professor Atifa's own words, in his penultimate slide, he says that a minimum of $65 million is needed urgently. A minimum of, let me read it verbatim, a minimum of $65 million of the outstanding amount is required to be paid urgently in order to meet the current debt obligation under the project to suppliers and bankers that has been negotiated with all the creditors to prevent total project shutdown. These are not my words. He says if he doesn't get $65 million urgently, and he was begging us in parliament to help him, there will be project shut down. The whole Ghana car registration will shut down. So out of the $170 million, he has managed, and we must commend him, give him some small commendation. He's managed to negotiate with the people that, okay, if we bring some part payment, $65 million, then we can prevent a project shutdown. Work out the exchange rate. Do the conversion. Is $65 million the 80 million cedis, 100 million cedis that Ken Ofori-Atta has managed to raise? And in any case, where we are today as a country, looking at the priorities, the things we can't pay for. You've heard Charles. You've seen the kind of food we are giving our children in the secondary schools. Free SHS is in arrears. We can't pay NAPCO workers. Now, many people have even forgotten about them. People have forgotten. And I have received a petition from the former NAPCO employees who are owed 13 months, 14, some 15 months. We don't even budget for them any longer. Look at all the things we owe, all the things we cannot, obligations we cannot meet. School feeding caterers. You have a CI which works. Ghanaians can just get on the electoral roll. You say that you want to impose this burden. And even in imposing this burden upon yourselves, you cannot find the money. Now let me come to the NIA's own conduct. I'll conclude on that. Yes. I'll conclude on the NIA's own conduct, which is appalling to say the least. During the presentation at the Committee of the Whole, I asked Professor Atefa that, you see, you've only brought us global figures, and then you've brought us a regional distribution. You haven't given us district by district breakdown, so we need that. Especially when you went on Newsfile the weekend before you came to Parliament and said that members of Parliament should not walk to their district office and obtain data and think that that is credible. It is not credible. It's not reliable data. Those are his own words. And he even cited Adaklu, the minority chief whip's constituency, as an example, and said the figures that he obtained from his Adaklu office, which he has been bandying about, is not credible. If you want credible data, reliable data, come to me at the headquarters. I was alarmed when I heard that. Because the simple question is, hey, so how are you compiling the global figures? I will have thought that for credible district data, it's rather at the NIA office that you get it. Because they are getting it real time. They are there. If somebody came to me just a minute ago before you arrived as an MP, the district office should have it. Before, later, maybe at the end of the week or at the end of the quarter, they compile and send it to Accra. But if the headquarters is telling MPs that, oh, don't waste your time to go to the district office. If you want credible data, come to us in Accra. It raises fundamental questions. How are the numbers being compiled at the national level? Are the figures being cooked? How did they come by the global figure? So I asked, and he said, oh, okay, I'll let you have it. I thought we would get it by end of day. It didn't happen. End of week, it didn't happen. So on the 16th of March, a couple of days ago, I had to send them this letter, reminding them, this is a copy of the letter, reminder to redeem pledge of submitting to Parliament a detailed district breakdown of the number of Ghanaians registered, Ghana cards printed per district, and those issued with Ghana cards in each district. I'm still waiting for a reply. It's almost 3 weeks since Professor Atefa gave us that assurance. And you know why this is very important? Already, if you look at the global numbers, Sena, I am deeply, deeply frightened. If you take Ghana's population and housing census, Sena, Greater Accra is the most populous region with 5,455,692 by the current data. Ashanti region is second with 5,440,463. It gives you a variance of 15,229 in terms of Greater Accra has 15,000 more people. And yet, when you do the analysis of the regional distribution, we are yet to get the district by district breakdown, and you come to consider the number of under 18s who have been enrolled currently as we speak. Ashanti region has more enrolled people, 69,903, according to NIA, the NIA data. And it's here. I have the slides here. Greater Accra has 51,159. So Ashanti region has registered 18,744 more under 18s than Greater Accra. It doesn't follow the national statistics. You will expect that it should be the other way around. And when you go through all the other regions, you see that where there are, from the track record, the data, more NDC voters, there are fewer people registered. That is why we are concerned, and we have the right to be suspicious. And to make matters worse, as I conclude, Sena, from the presentation that Professor Atefa made to Parliament, I was shocked when Professor Atefa announced, and it's here in this slide, that in February 2023, just last month, the NIA has decided to establish premium registration centers in 3 additional places. You know, it existed only in Accra. Guess the places that Professor Atefa chose: Koforidua, Kumasi, and Takoradi. Can you believe that? We all know the voting pattern here, where these people, how they vote, who they vote for. As we speak now, there is shortage of cards. The only way you can get a Ghana card is through the premium registration center. So if you are going to establish one, establish in all regional capitals. Why did you choose Koforidua, Kumasi, and Takoradi? Then he says that enrollment performance at these premium centers is being observed to guide the potential establishment of such centers in Cape Coast, Ho, Tamale, and other regional capital. Potential. He can't even give assurance. Look, we have piloted these premium registration centers in Accra for about a year. Haven't we done enough analysis if we are rolling out? What went into the selection of these 3 places? Only MPP strongholds should have the premium registration centers? Is that what Ken Atefa is telling us? Meanwhile, if you do the analysis, which I have done with the global figures, if there are regions which we should mop up, we should establish these premium registration centers, it shouldn't be these 3 regions, because they have the highest. If you compare the number of registered people so far in Ashanti region, that's comparing with the total population. You know, Ghana's population is about 30.8 million. I've told you Ashanti is 5.4 million. Greater Accra is number 1 with about 5.445,000 roughly. If you do the comparative analysis, Ashanti region, 57% of the population have been registered. Eastern region, 58% have been registered. Greater Accra, 59%. All the perceived NDC strongholds, take Northern region, is one of the lowest, 37%. So if you want to establish a premium registration center, Tamale should even be number 1, because that's where you don't have a lot of people on the register. Northern region is amongst the lowest, 37%. You have Upper West region, 37%. Volta region, 49%. Northeast, 42%. Savannah, 42%. Ahafu, 48%. So the regions with very low number of Ghanaians who have enrolled onto the NIA database are being left out. And increasingly, everything is being done. And this is what Professor Jampo was speaking to the last time, for which he ended long treatise. Professor Atefa has time to write all those long treatises. He cannot give Parliament district breakdown. So I conclude by saying that, look, when it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it certainly is a duck. I know voter suppression when I see it. I know gerrymandering when I see it. The Ghanaian people are not going to accept this voter suppression to continue. Let me salute colleague MPs who have held the fort and who have fought so hard to make sure this CI doesn't see the light of day. I want to commend the new leadership of the NDC, continuing from what the old leadership did. They have also been phenomenal. Even you've noticed that with the ongoing parliamentary elections, they have created a special dispensation. They say that MPs should file this weekend because the intelligence we picked was that when we go and file next week, the originally advertised date, then they will hurriedly bring the CI and lay it in Parliament, because then we will not be there to stop them. The party has been very responsive. The General Secretary put out a statement a couple of days ago that they are changing the timeline. We should register this weekend. So because of this program, my people are doing the filing on my behalf. I want to thank my constituency executives for their support. So MPs are filing this weekend so that by Tuesday morning, we'll all be back in the chamber to prevent this scheme from seeing the light of day. So I want to thank the national NDC executives for all the support they have extended to us. This is in the national interest. We want to prevent voter suppression, as Afari Djan calls it clearly, and we want to make sure that we preserve and protect the democracy of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say a big thank you to Comrade Kwesi Pratt. He started off the show in my absence. Of course, if you know what has happened within the capital, you will understand. Lots of the roads are clearly basically flooded, which is worrying, especially for the old part of Accra. There's a new part around this area. But thank you for staying with us on the Mother of All Talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We'll jump to Solomon Owusu straight away before I come and read your comments on this matter of Dr. Afari Djan's views on the CI, the Electoral Commission, wants to lay in Parliament.
Good morning, Sena, and good morning to co-panelists. Who's 10 panelists now? Good morning, Mr. Pratt. It's good Sami took us through a journey of universal adult suffrage. It's very important, and I will be the last person to wish that anybody is denied the right to vote. Indeed, when it comes to Ghana, the right to vote is a constitutional provision. Article 42, as you rightly said, gives everybody who is 18 years and above and of sound mind the right to register to vote. Many a times when we talk about these matters, we only concentrate on those that are above 18, but I've never heard anybody talk about re-examining people who are of sound mind. I think the EC must also begin to look at that aspect, because if you have no sound mind, that means you can also vote. And how do we determine people who are with sound mind? So it is something that the EC going forward, and maybe somebody may challenge the Constitution as to how we determine people who are of sound mind who can vote. I mean, clearly the NDC and the MPP are not saying anything different. Indeed, if you read the Special Budget Committee report as presented by Parliament, you will realize that both the minority and majority insisted that the EC should do everything possible to make sure that it does not disenfranchise anybody. So we are on the same page. I'm not too sure anybody can say that the decision by any electoral commission not to allow anybody were near to a particular party's interest. And I was wondering how my brother was drawing conclusions that if you look at the data, Ashanti region, as we speak, has had about 57% registered onto the national ID Ghana card, and then other areas perceived to be NDC strongholds having low percentages. The last elections taught us something that our brothers in the NDC probably must change their position on how they view certain regions. And I think that earlier, this is a pro bono advice I'm giving to the NDC. Because in the last elections, clearly, the NDC had 653,000 in the Ashanti region, which is much more than what the NDC had in the Volta region. In fact, it was second to the Greater Accra region. And if you are going to go by that tangent, is it a case that when we started, or when the NIA started piloting the premium services in Accra, they were favoring the NDC? Don't forget the NDC won the Greater Accra region. So by my brother's own presentation, it means the MPP should have protested when the NIA started its premium operations in Greater Accra, or Accra for that matter, because NDC won Accra. And from all the indications, it means the NIA wanted to favor the NDC. I don't think that was the case. Sena, the Electoral Commission of Ghana has come from a certain background. You know, before 1968, the Electoral Commission itself was operating under the local government ministry. And that was one of the reasons why Nkrumah was taken on. In fact, if you remember, after the 66 coup, it took a certain committee, the Cerebral Committee, to look into why the local government was responsible for organizing our elections. And after that, we quickly came in with an interim Electoral Commission. And that was what had Justice Crabb as our first independent Electoral Commissioner in 1968 for the 1969 election. So clearly, the Electoral Commission has undergone a lot of reforms. In 1992, when we started voting into an opaque electoral boxes. People didn't see what was in there. And I have said that one of the biggest flaws of my party, MPP, was our decision to boycott the 1992 parliamentary elections. It was a fiasco. It was a disaster. We should have been there to be part of the modeling of the democracy of our country. We failed to do that. And unfortunately, our brothers in the NDC did not take a cue from that. What they have been doing in the last few months is to correct the mistake of their former executives who decided to boycott IPAC. Because clearly, if you read the statement issued by the CDD, just oppose it to the statement from Afari Djan and other interested parties, including Kodeo, you would realize that this is much ado about nothing. Most of the issues our brothers in the NDC are complaining now about has been dealt with at the IPAC level. And that is why recently you saw those, minority political parties come out to say they supported what the EC was doing in terms of the new CI. Because these issues have been discussed thoroughly and a decision has been made that indeed going into election 2024, the Ghana card will be the sole identification document to enable anybody to register as a voter. This decision was taken at the IPAC level. And when you read the CDD report, the CDD also confirms that the decision was taken at the IPAC level. And if a decision that you as a political party was supposed to be part of it decides on your own because you lost an election not to be part, whom do you blame? And that's why I say that it is a way of using the back door, that is the National Democratic Congress, to come and atone for their sins so that their inputs or their views could be incorporated in the new CI. When the Electoral Commission went to Parliament on the 27th of July 2022 to meet the Special Budget Committee, there the Electoral Commissioner made it clear that it had come to Parliament to solicit input from members of Parliament. At that time, they were not forcing their views. Said they have presented a draft copy. Make your input as parliamentarians so that it will reflect in the CI that will be laid. At the end of the day, the conclusion of the Special Budget Committee was to the effect that if the Electoral Commission can assure members that no Ghanaian will be disenfranchised, then they can go ahead with the Ghana card business. Now, that's why I say it's much ado about nothing. My brother himself admits that in the Ghana card system, to qualify to have a Ghana card, there is a guarantor system. Is that not the case? So if there is a guarantor system that enables any Ghanaian that wants to register, mind you, it's not anybody in any Ghanaian above 18 years who's of sound mind that wants to register to vote in this country. There are people who are even having their voter cards, they don't vote. If you check the electoral register, the last time we had about 70 million on the roll. Is that not the case? Go and add the votes from the NDC and MPP, and you see that about 5 million people did not vote. So it's not anybody who has registered that wants to vote. There are people who need the voter ID card for transactional purposes and not to vote. And so if you have an opportunity to use the guarantor system to get your Ghana card, then why are we fighting? Because the same guarantor system that Mr. Afari Djan Dr. Afari Djan and the CDD are calling on the EC to use is available to prospective voters or registrants to get their Ghana card. The difference between the EC's guarantor system and that of the NIA is the swearing of oath affidavit. Now we are hearing that the EC can use the same system that the NIA is using. In fact, Dr. Afari Djan, if people were reading him clearly with rapt attention, they would know that he was calling for a more robust guarantor system, which could be problematic. What if we are going to follow Dr. Afari Djan's advice for a more robust guarantor system, and the EC decides, say, well, a more robust system, you need to swear an affidavit before a commissioner of oath, you need to go and seek police clearance and so on and so forth. Wouldn't we be entering into a realm of absurdity? So I believe that, yes, we are all on the same page. I wish if the Electoral Commission of Ghana has that enough funds, they should just adopt the guarantor system that is being used by the NIA. That is, to adopt all the 1,300 commissioners of oath who were trained for the purposes of NIA, just pay them. Because underpinning all this is whether or not as a country we are in a position to finance some of these things. And my brother was right. He was talking about why are we going to get a 1.5 billion? So it's monetary in nature. In the same vein, why are we going to get the money to engage the commissioners of oath to go and assist in this guarantor system? Where would the money be coming from? As you have made us to believe that there is no money, or the NDC will help us in that regard. I'm not too sure.
Is it the same amount? Is it the same value?
Nobody adds up whether it's one city is going to add up. So if you have a system that is already in place, that we are not going to spend more, why do we then, as people that want to protect the public purse, urge the country to go and expend more resources to achieve the same purpose? In any case, it's our brothers and sisters in the NDC. What are they afraid of? Do they believe for a moment that the incumbent party is in coerce or is in bed with the Electoral Commission to rig any elections? And you know what makes it very interesting? The vociferous members of parliament from the NDC side are all beneficiaries of the actions and inactions of the Electoral Commission. As my brother Sami telling me that in winning the North Tong elections, it was rigged for him. No, he should let us know, because there is a saying that executionists fear to lay Adjoa. What are you afraid of? A same institution that supervised you getting 89%, almost 90% in your last elections. They couldn't rig in favor of your opponent. You won handsomely. And yet you turn around to blame the same institution or question their integrity. Indeed, we have about 137 members of parliament from the NDC side. Now it's 136. They all went through elections that were supervised by the Electoral Commission, and then won elections declared by the EC. So if there are ways and means that we can improve our system, we must not, on the altar of politics, demonize any institution. Now, it is also clear that we are told Parliament works with evidence, data. It's a good thing. So I was expecting our brothers from the other side to help the discussion. What data are we using in all these analyses so that we can arrive at a very safe conclusion that yes, there are several Ghanaians who are yet to have their Ghana cards. We have not been told that data yet. It's a general discussion, or any time that I hear this, nobody gives us specifics. But yet,
You were not listening to me.
I listened to you very well. I mean, when it came, you provided some data from the NIA. Remember, and you yourself said that the Ghana card, which is the law, Ghana card, the people that are qualified to have the Ghana card are from the ages of 15 and above. You know that between 15 and 17 years, they don't vote. The same Ghana statistics, if you check the Ghana Statistical Service, we are talking about a population of close to 32 million. Is that not the case? Now, the Ghana Statistical Service tells us that in every...
30.8.
30.2, that was the last time. By now, we would have had more. So let's safely put that 30.8. You understand? 30.8 million, that is ages 0 to infinity. That constitutes our entire population. Out of this 30.8 million, we have foreigners. And we have ages of 0 to 14 years. Now, we have been told that the ages of 0 to 14 years constitute about 40% of our population. So if we're going to calculate 40% of our population and subtract it from the 30 million, that should give you an idea as to the number of people who are supposed to register for the Ghana card. Now, the 15 to 17 years, we are yet to estimate that population. Can it be that the number of people that are yet to be registered are those within the age brackets of 15 to 17? So if they are the people that constitute those that are unregistered, then where lies the argument we are talking about here? That is why I say we must speak to the data. Instead, the National Democratic Congress in Parliament should have called for specifics, and I'm happy that he has called for specifics, that they should furnish him with a district data. It will also not make statistical sense if people decide to compare regional data. Look, when it comes to Greater Accra, the mere fact that we are in Greater Accra does not mean Gans are more than the other tribes. You get my point? It does not mean automatically that when you are going to register, you would have a particular tribe registering more than the others. In any case, the last elections taught us something. As we speak, NPP has a seat in the voter region. So how can anybody deceive himself that voter region is a done deal for the NDC? We have a city hall. In the same way, the NDC has about 3 or so 2 seats in the Ashanti region. So I am not too comfortable when we decide to regionalize some of these things. Now, if you are going to go by the statistics that has been churned out this morning, take 57% of the 5.5 million. Why would be? We are left with about 2-something million. Why would any institution leave 2.2 million Ghanaians and go and concentrate on about 100,000? Nobody will do that. You need to take care of the where the masses are. No, but you are talking about Ashanti region having a population of about 5.5 million. Now you are telling us that of that figure, 57% has been registered. Is that not the case? It means the whopping 43% are yet to be registered. Now calculate the 43% of that population. You are talking about close to 2 million plus who are yet to be registered. So if the NI is to embark on any mop-up exercise, and you have between 100,000 or 200,000 and 2.2 million, why would you concentrate your effort?
Northern region is 2,310,939.
And how many people have been registered? And how many people have registered?
37%.
And the northern region it's not your stronghold. It's a 9-9.
So
nobody gives northern region.
I'm not saying that the point you made doesn't add up.
No, the point you were making what you tried to regionalize it.
Northern region doesn't have 100,000 people.
No. What I'm saying is that you started by saying, it is your own argument that I'm doing here.
Yeah.
You started by saying that the concentration of this registration.
Yes.
Can I have your?
Yes.
The concentration of this NI registration.
And the decision to establish premium registration centers.
That is what I'm addressing.
Yes,
now,
in only 3.
I'm not saying anything different from what you have said. I'm using your own argument, your own data. You are saying that the concentration of the registration, that's the NI card, seems to you that it is happening in the strongholds of the MPP. Is that not what you have said?
That's what
and I'm saying that, first of all, that argument cannot hold, because in the last elections, the NDC has 653,000 votes in the Ashanti region, which is second in terms of your regional votes to Greater Accra. Now, in that same vein, if you are a policy maker and you are going to roll out a program, between where the masses are and where there are few people, where would you concentrate your effort? And you brought all this. I'm saying 57% of 5.4 will lead you to a balance of about 2-something million. You understand? So if the NIA is setting up a center, a premium center in areas such as Kumasi, Takrady, and then Koforia, it emanates from the figures that you yourself have provided. That the masses are there.
You are wrong.
Why am I wrong? Because so are you telling me that the decision to set up the Greater Accra office was to help the NDC? Because NDC won in Greater Accra.
Article 42.
Yes.
It is a right. They are entitled to be registered.
So let's go into Article 45.
So make sure,
yes,
that nobody is left out.
No, but the EC has not said anybody is going to be left out.
What is stopping the NIA from opening these premium registration centers in all regional capitals?
But first of all, you yourself told us, you yourself, a while ago, said it was going to be difficult for the government to get monies to the NIA. So you have identified financial constraints as one of the challenges of the NIA. So if the NIA is rolling out something, they are deficient.
Yes, so so you are going to set out 3. You can't make sure that at least one.
What did they tell you there?
One of the 3. You have Koforidua, you have Kumasi.
And after that, what did they say? Following the performance.
Some uninspiring, ambiguous, follow performance, the potential establishment. Potential.
You see?
Potential.
Look, like I said.
Do you know the population of Tamale?
No, first of all, the northern region, I've told you.
Tamale is bigger. The population of Tamale is bigger than Koforidua.
Can you? Yeah.
If you allow him to finish his interview.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's it. So, but I don't even.
No, he's inviting
so
me.
The point is that
impeach my data.
But if I had done this, I'm telling you, your messages will be bubbling like. But even by now, the insults are coming like something, but which is normal. So the point I'm saying is that it is much ado about nothing. The NDC, as a party, has recognized that they erred in refusing to attend IPAC meetings since 2020, and that if they were going to IPAC meetings, all these issues raised by other political parties, including the Electoral Commission, would have been dealt with if they were not in agreement. Again, we are talking about the independence of the Electoral Commission. The independence of the Electoral Commission is not in doubt. It's a constitutional provision. It's our brothers in the NDC telling us that now that we should abandon the independence of the Electoral Commission and then only take their views when it came to electoral matters. If there is any political party that must even begin to look at the Electoral Commission with 5 eyes, is the MPP. I know why we say that. Because in 2016, we won the election with an overwhelming majority under a different electoral commissioner, Charlotte Mensah, or Charlotte Osei. Charlotte Osei. We won with an overwhelming majority in parliament and in terms of the presidential votes. So if anybody is to complain that there has been something fishy or some kind of connivance, it's the MPP that must begin to look at the Electoral Commission very, because we dropped our numbers in parliament from 167 or so to 137. And the party that made substantial gains under that Electoral Commission is not even satisfied. The party is rather blaming or demonizing that institution. And what baffles me, you see, anytime I see members of parliament from the NDC side gets up to accuse J. Mensah and her outfit, I say, but why? Were they declared by a different Electoral Commission as winners of that election? So clearly they have no message. The people of this country, I would admonish them. Anybody who is 18 years and above, unlike what the NDC did in 2018 when they called on their members not to register for the Ghana card, they must do whatever it takes to go and get their Ghana card. the guarantor system is available there. If really they are 18 years and above, if really they are Ghanaians, nothing stops them from having their Ghana card. And I'm beginning to have a funny feeling that the population that we seem to be fighting for, majority of them have the card. If we are going to do a simple litmus test in this room, all of us sitting here have the Ghana card. And we didn't go through any special dispensation, but rather go through the normal process of acquiring the Ghana card. The implementation of this decision is as what was given to us by the parliament heavily led by the National Democratic Congress. We have been quoting here the LI 2111. What was the rationale behind that regulation? The regulation 7 of it. Why did the parliament then told us that the Ghana card will be used for registration when issued? At that time, we had not even printed more than 5 million of those cards. Remember, when you go to the CI 91, go and check the means of identification. Just suppose that one to the CI 126. That's in CI 91. One was supposed to provide driver's license, voter's ID card, and so on and so forth. But when it came to CI 126, they dropped the driver's license. Were they denying those with driver's license the opportunity to register? That's what I say. Elections are improved upon every cycle. Look, at a point in our history, people who were on remand prisoners, and even prisoners were not allowed to vote. It took a council and go to court to challenge that decision and then have it ratified. To the extent that now prisoners in this country vote. So if you have anything contrary to that, it is incumbent on our brothers from the minority side to bring constructive criticism and not to make it a point or create the impression that the LPP does not want Ghanaians to be registered to vote when we cannot even estimate whether or not those that are yet to be registered, what is their total population, two, whether or not it's even the MPP members who are yet to be registered, if there are any. And in any case, is it a case that of the 17 million people that have been registered by the NIE, the NDC does not have any trust in them, that their messages have sunk so deep that given the opportunity to vote, they will vote for the NDC? And that is a serious matter. If a political party does not believe that it has a credible message with a potential credible leader who will lead a party with a sound message to convince Ghanaians, and still arguing that the electoral register, the EC wants to rig an election, then I don't know where we are coming from. I would entreat them. Now again, my brother was talking about 0.2% of errors or problems that were encountered by the Electoral Commission without saying or giving the 0.2% of what? In the last registration exercise, when the EC established the District Registration Review Committee, 42,000 forms were challenged or persons were challenged. Out of that, 15,000 were not allowed to have their names in the electoral register. Can you imagine what 15,000 can do in an election? So please, let us all help the Electoral Commission and not to create a situation of tension. I mean, it has been said by political strategists that opposition parties thrive when there is so much tension in the system. The NDC seems to be creating more tensions in the system so that Ghanaians will feel that, oh, they are the next party that is likely to win, and the Electoral Commission wants to do everything possible to prevent them from winning, when the facts on the ground does not suggest that the Electoral Commission has what it takes to win any elections for anybody. Our electoral system is so robust that from the polling station, where all the electoral political parties have their reps, to the constituency level where all the political parties have their reps, it is very difficult to rig. Any political party can rig when the other side, or the Electoral Commission can rig when the other side of the political divide decides to allow it through its members. Other than that, how can you come and have, say, NDC have, say, two votes in my polling station, Mukose, and the rep there will rise, say they had 0. That is their own cup of tea. So election is a brain game. Get your right people at the polling station. Let them record it accurately. Follow it up to the constituency level. Because it is what is gotten at the polling station that translates at the national level. And also get a solid message with a credible leader. A leader that the Ghanaian can trust. A leader with a solid message, a pragmatic message, a workable plan. Just like what Alhaji Chamati has provided, the great transformational plan. And not just to come and tell us for after all these years in opposition, we are yet to hear any concrete policy from the NDC to ginger the Ghanaians to think that they want to even bring them back. Except some of these things. So, Sena, it's much ado about nothing. Okay. Let us all, the NDC must go back to IPAC and involve themselves in the activities of IPAC, engage Electoral Commission, and freely express themselves rather than using this backdoor which does not seem to help anybody. I will conclude my discussion here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for drawing my attention to the CDD statement, because the CDD gives an account of what happened at IPAC. They said in 2021, the EC held a number of IPAC meetings to discuss the modalities of rolling out the continuous registration format. The proposal to use the Ghana card as the sole identity card was agreed, subject to the condition and one assumption. First, the EC was to ascertain that the exclusive use of the Ghana card did not violate the right of a citizen to be registered and to vote. The EC committed to consult the Attorney General on the matter prior to submitting the CI. Second, the use of the Ghana card as the sole identification card for voter registration was predicated on the assumption that the NIA will continue its registration exercise to mop up unregistered Ghanaians, thereby reducing the registration exercise each year primarily to Ghanaians who have turned 18. So that is the portion and account. Subject to those conditions. Subject to those conditions. Yeah.
That the Ghana card will be used subject to, and all the things.
But remember that IPAC is not a Christian law.
Well, let me continue. Okay, so a few messages from some of those who are watching us on Facebook. This is Magdo who says, what is Solo saying? If you are EC that refuse to listen to NDC and when they make suggestions, but rather wants to impose the views of her paymasters, what is the need to be present at IPAC meeting? If Jane Mensah knew she was working for her paymasters, was she afraid of? And anyway, she moves around with battalions of military following her. That is coming from Magdo. Salih from Money says, okay, he lives in Germany. You know what? Our leaders in Ghana are so dumb. They don't know the validity of birth certificate. Because most of them, they said most of them are so old they don't even have birth certificates. There's Richard Backlam who's joining us. He says, good morning. So let's talking about minority political parties press conference. Did you also hear about the other minority political parties press conference on Thursday? Furthermore, can Solo tell Ghanaians one institution in Ghana where the voter ID can be used for transaction as of today? Solo, please give us a break. Now, okay, there were actually 3 political parties, GUM, PNC, and PPP, who held a press conference together on this matter too. There's Tafai Namra here, who is also joining us. Tafai says, so today you have shown us your true political colors, typical Danko Abusia traditional person. Black is white and white is blue. You pretend you didn't hear Boss Mansari say NDC is a threat to our democracy. That's Tafai Namra here. Then this one says, this is from Charles Cardinal, who says Article 42 of 1992 Constitution is clear on who can vote in Ghana. It states every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. It does not say the EC should introduce CI to qualify a citizen as a voter. It is illegal for the EC to embark on this dangerous trend. Charles Cardinal Pukwasi. Actually, the EC is supposed to pass a law to regulate its activities. So that's the CI that's been introduced. This is Davi Sena who says, Sena, please tell the MPP guy that the former voter has now been split into now OT, formerly Voter North, and Voter regions in their gerrymandering quest, thinking that they will take OT region. Unfortunately, it didn't work for them. So they shouldn't make that assertion that Voter region came third after Greater Accra and Ashanti regions for the NDC. The stolen Hokwe seat having robbed the people of Sowah of their parliamentary voting notes, knowing fully well that if Sowah voted in the parliamentary elections, the NDC would have won Hokwe seat. It should be truthful to himself and to Ghanaians. By the way, what is the local standing of the 4 non-existent political parties which names were struck off the register of political parties have in supporting the CI that the EC intends to lay in Parliament? David Sena sent that one. And then Kojocho Mbafo says, did I just hear Solo ask whether the NDC is afraid that the EC and MPP are in cahoots and want to rig the election? Solo, what do you think? We are not afraid. We are telling you that's what it is. Indeed, listening to you pretend that that's not the case is insulting to say the least. We are discussing this issue of the ECCI and the comments that have been made on it by Dr. Kojo Afari Djan. We'll listen to Beatrice Anana.
As always, it's good to be on the Mother of All Talk show. I think for me personally, it's been such a long time, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me asking what's happening. I think that I'm just trying to mix a lot of things up, so viewers should pardon me. I should also say that this afternoon, President Mahama will be going to the Ashanti region to continue with his campaign. Until sometime into the show, I may have to leave and join him. So my apologies if viewers do not see me till the end of the show. Sena, on the issue of the CI, I've listened to a lot of MPP communicators, and this morning, listening to Solo, I really don't know what the challenges of the MPP is. Either is with simple logic, or deliberately they assume that everybody thinks like them. Solo, first of all, let me correct a lot of misconception that Solo has churned out. The NDC never boycotted IPAC on the issue of the CI. In fact, the NDC wrote to Madame Jane Mensah that on the issue of the CI, the party has chosen Mr. Huduyaya to be our representative at IPAC.
I never said you
the EC never invited the NDC as a party. Please don't interrupt me. I never interrupted. You said we boycotted IPAC, and that if the NDC was present as IPAC, we would not have. And I'm telling you that the NDC was never invited by the Electoral Commission on the issue of the CI to any IPAC meeting for said deliberation. First of all, which serious electoral commissioner worth her salt, together with the commissioners, would want to discuss a matter as important as changing the whole regulatory regime of our voting system, amending the parent LI, which is LI 91, together with its amendment LI 126, and bring a whole new CI and say that the party that has 137 members of parliament, 136, just like you people still have how many? We have 137. When we went to the election, we had 137 members of parliament, subject to other decisions by a court. That is different. We invite one party that has 137 members of parliament and leave another party that has the same 137 members of parliament. Which serious CI? Madame Jane Mensah together with the NPP, are a threat to our democracy. Because the Son of Man here, now Antichrist, who is fighting the corruption in the cathedral, so that we call him Antichrist, has copiously told you the checkered history of how the world has come to accept that each person must have a right to vote. As long as you are of the qualified age and you have sound mind and you are a citizen of your country, you have a right to vote. So why is it that the NPP wants to be a threat to that democracy? And the irony is that the democracy we are enjoying in the Fourth Republic, you didn't contribute anything to it. All of a sudden, you have realized that the Fourth Republic, which you did not contribute anything to, is so sweet that you want to forever be in power. Where were you in 1992 when we were doing the Constitution, promulgating the Constitution? Where were you? Where were the NPP? You didn't have opinions about how Ghana should be in the Fourth Republic. But today, you have come to meet some 600 billion cedis. You have come to meet that some way, somehow, you can recklessly manage the economy and get away with it. And so you want to be in power and break the 8. If you think that you have done so well, why do you want to suppress the will of the people? Why would you not allow majority of Ghanaians, as long as they are 18 years and of sound mind, to register and vote? And when you listen to Solomon's presentation, I mean, on one point he wants to find reason with what everybody is saying, and then he realizes that, no, I'm on TV and I'm speaking for the NPP, so I need to say something to balance the equation. Solo, the democracy we are enjoying, it doesn't matter whether you are NPP or you are NDC, you have a duty to protect that democracy. It is the same democracy that the NDC lost power and we handed it over to. You think you guys are the smartest? That when the NDC was in power in 2016, we could not have done gerrymandering to win power? Because we respect the tenets of democracy. Because we respect that, like the preamble to the Constitution, the will of the people is the supreme laws of this country and not the wishes of some democratic dictator like you have in your party. So please spare us all those approbations and reprobations you've been doing in your analysis as far as the CI issue is concerned. So now, why are we opposed to this CI? In principle, I think if you compare the two political parties, the NDC has shown that we are more nationalistic inclined. For every electoral reforms we've had in this country, as long as it makes sense, it protects the sanctity of our democracy, the NDC has welcomed it. They said they wanted biometric registration. We had nothing to hide. We had no vote pardon to do like we saw in Asawase and the rest in 2020. We welcomed it because we believe that when you do the right thing as a political party, the people will vote for you. When you do the wrong thing, the people will not vote for you. So we welcomed it. Today, the MPP, having seen that they have become the most unpopular political party in the history of the Fourth Republic, today the CPP is more attractive than the MPP.
Oh, really?
Nobody wants to associate with the MPP. You meet lawyers in court, you go to the market, and it's as though nobody is MPP again. Even Solo today cannot associate proudly with the vice president. Oh. Today you cannot associate. When you were speaking, you could not associate with your government in power.
Talking about government or you are talking about vice president?
I'm making a point. I'll get there.
Get there.
You cannot proudly associate with sections of your own political party because you are ashamed of how they have led this country. And so instead of focusing on building a nation, you're focusing on gerrymandering to win an election. Sena, the parent CI, which we know that governs our elections today, was CI 91. Now, if you look at the CI 91, Regulation 3, it talks about who is qualified to be a voter as long as identity is concerned. And we said in 2016, you could use your passport, your driver's license, your national ID card, your existing voter registration, and also what we have come to know as the guarantor system. Then in 2020, you amended Regulation 3 by way of CI 126 and took away some of the qualification and said, even that one, it was an issue. You said you wanted to use the passport, the Ghana card, and the guarantor system. Many people had challenges with the fact that birth certificate had been taken out. But to the extent that passport, which was something that was of a national pride, you people are those issuing diplomatic passports to people with double identity. To the extent that passport was something with national pride, it could be a part of identification. To the extent that many people are being born in ship's compound, which you haven't built some for many communities since you came into office. When people are born, they do not have access to passport. And so if I have a nephew in a village in Mafikumase who doesn't have a passport because does not have the intention of using a luxurious private jet like the president is doing, I should be able to go and guarantee for that person and say that although he doesn't have a Ghana card and the passport, this person is my cousin, and I can testify the person is a Ghanaian, and the person will get a voter ID card. And so that is the system we have run. Now, we wake up one day, and the EC says, I have a new CI that I want to use. This time, I'm repealing the CI 91, which is the existing law that governs us. I'm also repealing the amendments which I myself did in 2020, and I'm bringing a new CI. The EC gave two reasons. One, they said they were bringing this new CI because they want to do continuous registration. You see, sometimes the MPP and the EC should know that when you go to school, you people were not some of the smartest people in the class. We sat in class with some of you. If anything at all, your president's class is not something we should be proud of. So when we are talking about intelligent people, maybe you should spare us some, you should give us some benefit of the doubt. So now I have in my hands the new CI. Funny enough, the continuous, the proposed CI, the proposed CI.
I think you got it. You got what you
The proposed CI.
No, it's a proposed CI.
It's the proposed CI. When you look at CI 91, what talks about continuous registration is Regulation 91. The irony is that in this proposed CI, Regulation 91 again, the same regulation, talks about continuous registration. One would have thought that, and in law, when you are making a law, there is some mischief you seek to cure. So there is something that the EC is not doing, or there is something that this old CI, which is the CI 91, together with its amendment, are not allowing the EC to do. So you are bringing the new law to allow the EC to do that thing. So now I have it in my hands. If your cameras can capture it, it is repeated verbatim in the proposed CI. Regulation 91, the Commission shall register voters on continuous basis. Full stop. Here, Regulation 91, the Commission shall register voters on continuous basis. Full stop. Not even punctuation difference. Go to 92. The Commission shall, in consultation with the registered political parties, determine the modalities for the continuous registration. You have the same thing here verbatim. So on the issue of continuous registration, we are saying that the existing CI as we have, nothing prevents you not to do the continuous registration. Yeah. So you don't need to bring any proposed CI to say that the basis for bringing the proposed CI is because I want to engage in the continuous registration. When that argument fell flat, the EC says, oh, it's not just the continuous registration, it's limited registration that we want to do. This time, we want to do it in the way that, whatever way they want to do it. You come to the same Regulation 9. Regulation 9 3, sub-regulation 3, talks about limited registration. Again, verbatim, in the proposed CI, nothing has changed.
It's proposed.
Yes, but that's the thing. If you lay it, nothing has changed. So the question is, what exactly does the EC want to do with the new CI? That the old CI doesn't give you that allowance, or you think Parliament doesn't have anything to do, and then when Madame J. Mensah wakes up every morning, she decides that the laws must change to suit my whims and caprices, and because when you lay a CI, it must take 21 days, let me just lay it and change it. After all, Parliament may, by some conventional means, not be able to prevent it. Is that how to govern and to have a democracy? Who taught you that? The big democracies and the people you copiously refer to anytime we refer you to your mismanagement, is that how they take their democracy? Now, Sena, the EC, the only reason the EC is bringing this proposed CI is just for 2 things. 1, to rig the 2024 election in favor of the MPP and to suppress voters, and I'll show you why. The only difference between the existing CI and the proposed CI is that this time the EC says that the centers for the registration that we are going to do will be at the district offices of the EC. And in this district office, it will be operated every time. Every time. So you can go to the EC's office on Monday, in July, in December, through to maybe October 2024 to get a voter's ID card. Now, this is where the danger is. If you look at the CIs as we have, that is already governing our election, the political parties are given the opportunities to be present at the time that registration is taking place. That is why, like your Kennedy Agyapong said, when you group to bring people from Niger to come and register, because the political party agents may live in the community, they know people who are not Ghanaians and they may challenge you, Solo, copiously quoted that the EC says that the infractions, even in the presence of the political parties, you were telling us that they were in thousands. Now, the EC is not doing it in the presence of political parties, but doing it in the comfort of her district offices at any time. How is the NDC supposed to station people at the offices or the district offices of the EC from now till October 2024?
You mentioned only the district offices.
But where? And any other place. Okay. So you see, that is where. Okay, so Solo.
Be patient.
Solo, that is where. That is
she's
where.
building her case. She's not
So
done.
that is where. Solo, please let me have my time. I didn't interrupt you. I sat down and watched you spew a lot of untruth. So allow me. You see, if ever we want to trust any electoral commissioner with the discretion, Madame J. Mensah does not have that capacity to exercise any discretion as long as it safeguards our democracy. Madame J. Mensah is not only a danger to our democracy, it's a threat to the very peace that we enjoy. Quote me anywhere. Why do I say that? We were in this country when in the run-up to the 2020 election, Madame J. Mensah, by a stroke of pen, said that I will not allow the people of South to vote. Were you not here? Who told you that an electoral commissioner can decide who votes and who does not vote in an election? Yours is to facilitate and make sure that everybody who is eligible to vote, votes. Yours is not to determine which people vote for which political party, and so if I can take these people out, this person is likely to win the seat or not. Is that the work of an electoral commissioner? And so, given what we are experiencing, given what is in the new or the proposed CI, that is why Mr. Afari Djan, with his experience, I think that for the experience that Mr. Afari Djan has, none of the electoral commissioners have had that experience. Mr. Afari Djan has presided over an election where MPP has won and lost, and NDC has won and lost. He is about one of the, fairest referee you can find. Look at the African election, the documentary. He says, if a political party brings me evidence, I will do that. In fact, it was because of some of these things that we had IPAC. So that whether the things were legal, political, or whatever, you will have political parties come together, sit and jaw. But you have a deputy electoral commissioner who was a patron of TESCON, an MPP member, say that the NDC is a threat to democracy. And you think that the NDC must see this person as a referee? So no, please, devoid of partisanship. Devoid of partisanship. We all have a civic responsibility to protect the democracy we are enjoying. Because you and I can sit on this show this morning to express our opinion because of democracy. You and I can decide to agree and disagree because of the democracy. The businesses, your businesses that are thriving, and the environments which you have to do everything you have, it's because of democracy. That when citizens have any contrary opinion to the government that is in power, they will express him through the ballot paper. But you see, having done this, if the Ghana card was a go-to Ghana card that anybody can get, why would the NDC be opposed? Because the NDC, we are the beneficiaries of a free and fair election. Because anytime elections have been conducted fairly in this country, the NDC has emerged victorious. Oh, please contact Kennedy Agyapong to explain to you the Nigerians you brought into this country in 2016. Please don't distract my presentation. So the NDC will not be opposed to any system that brings fair and free and fair election. The NIA has come to tell you that if you look at the people they have issued or they have not issued cards to, people who have registered but they have not also printed the cards for, and the people who are altogether yet to register, the data which Son of Man has copiously quoted is about 3.7 million Ghanaians. When he came to Parliament, he said that a little over 2.5 million people are yet to be registered. 643,403 people have registered, but they have not been issued cards. 541,529 people have not had cards printed to them for some reason. Now, one of the reasons he gave was that they don't have money. They are constrained financially because they owe the people. In fact, some of their cards are in warehouse because they've not been able to pay. It's not been released to them. And so he also, in a very characteristic manner, like an MPP person said, 6 months ago, in fact, more than 6 months ago, said that if the money was released, we can print all these cards and even register all the people
in 11 days.
In 11 days. So now, as we speak, this is a government that cannot provide money to buy vaccines for young babies who are sucking breast. Your government.
But there are vaccines in the system.
We'll come to the vaccine matter.
From where?
This was a government that does not have the money to buy vaccines. But some way, somehow, you have the money to build a cathedral. Some way, somehow, you are telling us that much as you don't have money to buy the very things that will safeguard the future of the young people in this country, you have the money to give to NIA to issue cards in your stronghold because you have an election to win. For God's sake, who has bewitched the MPP? This is not even the MPP that we knew. This is not Kufuor's MPP. That the MPP that cares not about the citizens, that the MPP, that nothing matters to them as long as they have money, they have access to state resources, everybody can go to hell, including common sense. Why must you subject the citizens it's as though it's a form of slavery. In fact, even our slave masters sometimes wrote to us to inform us that they wanted to take some decisions, and our people gave an input. Sometimes they change their mind. So you cannot do this. Voter suppression, your attempt to rig an election, your attempt to say that, please, let the EC pass the CI, some way, somehow, we will release money for the NIA, is the weakest link in an already weak argument. Sena, this is the finance minister that told us that we are a proud nation, that the Joshuas and the Calebs who went to look into the future and told us that Ghana's future was so bleak, so we were not going to the IMF. He cannot even negotiate an IMF deal. It's the same man who is telling us that he will release money to the NIA. The minister who told us that, oh, there will be no haircut, and the president in the foreign accent came to tell us that I can confidently tell you that there will be no haircut. Today, we are all at a risk. Is this a government that has integrity when they say they will do something? I mean, sometimes, you see, so I've come to appreciate that governance is a very serious business. And when you are in government and you have a responsibility to make and give policy direction, you don't have to think in a linear equation. You have to sit down, analyze the nuances. And even economics, we say that because the needs are just insatiable, you have to rank it. That is why you have a scale of preference. I'm sure this one, Dr. Bawumia did it in his thesis, so he knows very well as an economist. So you rank your needs. So at this time, when our nation is in crisis, when we are on our knees, when we practically can't do the needful things, you don't have a single hospital to your credit. You don't have very basic things. There are communities in Ghana which do not have access to electricity as we speak. School children are sitting on how do you call it, stones. Some of them under sheds. When you have resources, you choose to channel it into a voter registration. That's not even that there is something wrong with it. That we have even used the existing voter register and you are in power with it. You choose to channel these resources to solve something that is not a challenge. You are changing the face of it. That's what you're doing. You are changing the face.
No.
You're changing the face. That from today, my little sister who turned 18 years and has a passport cannot register as a Ghanaian because for no fault of hers, NIA has not given her a Ghana card. That is the new voter register you are doing. Is it that difficult for you to understand?
But your sister can have a guarantor system to get the NIA card.
Where is the card for him to get? So, are you living in Afghanistan? We are talking about Ghana. So in wrapping up, I will call on all well-meaning Ghanaians to add their voices to that of the NDC and the CDD, because this is a threat to democracy. Dr. Afari Djan has spoken, members of the NDC are speaking, the CDD has spoken, many sound voices have added their voices to this, except the MPP. Let us all come together and tell the MPP that you cannot come into power, decide to mismanage the economy, decide to run the country down, and then when it is time for you to be changed, you just say that let me change the laws to suit my whims and caprices. That must be resisted. And I want to applaud our minority in parliament for the work done so far. They have done so much so far, and we encourage them to resist this proposed CI with every means available to them, because the MPP is nothing but a threat to our economic liberation and the democracy we enjoy.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Shadinoti says, it's amazing how Ghanaians are tolerating this Ghana card only to vote debate. May God have mercy on Africans. Peter Lagaria says, birth certificate that gives birth to NIA cannot be used again. I think the NPP government and EC are not serious. There's Eric Okusepenu, who says good morning. Says, it is not for Solomon Owusu to stampede the NDC to rejoin IPAC for it to gain its credibility. Bruce Foucault says, Sena, please, if I may ask, what then happens to the voters' ID card? Rosemary Nylander says, robust? Really? So why was Charlotte Osei not good enough? Sally Fomoni says, Beta MPP, are you not even ashamed now to ask Ghanaians to vote for you to break the 8? Which 8 are you breaking with he says, your rubbish ruling? This is Davis Sena again, who returns with, so Sena, is it true that 4 deputy electoral commissioners have retired? If so, how come the public hasn't been informed? And by the way, have they been replaced? There are only 2 deputies. Then maybe you're talking about commissioners. If not, how come the EC, which last quorum by this retirement, is conducting business without the statutory quorum to take decisions? Prince Henry Koforidwa is also joining us. Prince Henry says, Mrs. Jin Mensah led EC to become a threat to Ghana's beautiful democracy. Ghanaians must resist the use of Ghana card as the sole ID to register for voters card. Today, I can't think far that birth certificates can be used as proof of citizenship under Nanado. I can use birth certificate to get a passport and use the passport to get registered for Ghana card, but I can't use the same passport and birth certificate to get voters card. Is this not absurd? Esujaman has its district capital at Impoku, and he wants people to travel from Nombo, which is about 30 kilometers, to come and register for voters card. This is absurd and wicked. The future is pregnant. Well, so those are some of the messages. I'll be going to some more. But first, let's listen to Comrade Pratt's view to conclude the discussion on the CI.
Well, look, I think that what we are discussing is a very, very simple and straightforward matter. It is not complicated at all, you understand? And sometimes we introduce new elements and so on, and then it becomes so sophisticated and so on, people cannot understand. It's a very simple, straightforward matter. The first responsibility of the Electoral Commissioner, the most important responsibility of our Electoral Commission, is that it has to do everything in its power to make sure that all Ghanaians who are qualified to vote can vote in an election, and that those votes must count. That's all. The Electoral Commission, its most important duty is to make sure that all Ghanaians qualified to vote can vote, and that when they vote, their vote must count. Finish. Now, in furtherance of this, the Electoral Commission is allowed to initiate regulations, and it does so by laying constitutional instruments before Parliament. Those constitutional instruments, when they are laid after a certain number of days and so on, have the effect of law. That's what we are discussing. Now, there already exist 2 constitutional instruments. Forget the numbers. We have been given some numbers, but there are 2 constitutional instruments which ought to guide the conduct of elections in our country. The Electoral Commission has decided that the existing constitutional instruments which should guide elections in our country ought to be set aside and ought to be replaced by a new constitutional instrument. Now, if you look at the existing constitutional instrument which guides election and the new one that the Electoral Commission is introducing, there is only one difference, one single difference. And that difference is that to meet one of the qualifications for being a Ghanaian who can vote, you need only one. Huh? No. No, please. No. You need only one means of verifying your citizenship. That's the only difference between the existing constitutional instrument and the new one which is being introduced. Now, the Electoral Commission is saying that for you to qualify, for you to prove that you're a Ghanaian who can be on the voters register, the only way of doing that is to produce a Ghana identification card. That's all. That's where we are. Yes. But this is so absurd, it's unbelievable. You were born in Kotowabi Down to Ghanaian parents with Ghanaian grandfathers. You have always been a Ghanaian. You want to register to vote in an election. And you are told that your Ghanaian citizenship now is no longer valid. And the only reason why your Ghanaian citizenship is not valid is that you cannot produce a Ghana card. I mean, what absurdity is this? Indeed, it is silly. The only reason why you have been a Ghanaian all your life and you have been a Ghanaian all your life, and for being a Ghanaian all your life, you are qualified to vote. The EC will prevent you from registering to vote is that you don't have a Ghana card. I mean, this is incredible. Forget all the arguments. Forget all the things that are being said. Your Ghanaian nationality is no longer valid because you don't have a national ID card. Hey, why? Let's put this one aside. How do you obtain the ID card, the Ghana ID card, identification card? You obtain it by producing a birth certificate, a passport, or somebody or some people go there and say that we know you. We've lived with you all this time. You're a Ghanaian. Or that me, I'm a Ghanaian. And I gave birth to this person who wants to register. Okay? So with a Ghanaian passport, you can qualify to get a national ID card. But with that same Ghanaian passport, which qualifies you to get a national ID card, you cannot be on the voters' roll. Abba! Master, does it make sense? Now, you have a birth certificate. With that birth certificate, you can go to the National Identification Authority and get a Ghana card. But with that birth certificate, you cannot use it as proof of nationality and get onto the electoral register. Does this make sense? I mean, very strange. It really doesn't make any sense at all. This is the gravamen of the issue. Nothing more, nothing less. This is where we are. This is why we are jumping over ourselves and fighting and so on. Here we are. Now, somehow, the Electoral Commission, has managed to get away with so many things, and I'm not going to list them, simply by playing the NDC versus the MPP card. And once they play that card, then MPP is supporting them. Then they can even manage to get parties which are virtually in comatose to come and support those things, because then it's reduced to a battle of parties and so on. And that's what they appear to have succeeded in doing. How do I lose my nationality? Because I don't have a national ID card. Now, strangely, the members of the commission themselves are using the other means that they are rejecting in this CI as proof of nationality. When Madam Jean Mensah was traveling to Nigeria as an election observer, what did she use as proof of nationality? She used her passport as proof of nationality. But she says that the same passport that she used as proof of nationality cannot be used by other Ghanaians as proof of nationality. What is wrong here? So I hope you understand.
No, I understand. I don't want to intervention, but issues that we have to deal with, Mr. President.
She is using a Ghanaian passport as proof of nationality. But she says that Kpando Mensah from Ashama is not entitled to use the Ghanaian passport as proof of nationality. Something must be fundamentally wrong. Something is missing in the equation. I mean, I'm not going to go into all the other arguments. Okay? Now, in talking about the Electoral Commission, its members and their conduct, there is something which would appear to be unrelated, but I think it's crucial. Only last night, I passed through Labone and drove in front of the chairperson of the Electoral Commission's house. The security she has is not available to the Chief Justice. It's not available to the Speaker of Parliament. It's not available to members of Parliament. It's not available to the chairman of the National Media Commission. And so on. You understand? I mean, there were times when I used to pass there in the night, soldiers actually block the road. They block the road in front of her house. Now, if this is not an attempt to create a siege mentality for her, what else can be? So there's a deliberate attempt to create a siege mentality for the Electoral Commission, chairperson of the Electoral Commission, and members of the Electoral Commission. Now, psychologically, what is the effect of that on the conduct of her duties? It may appear to be unrelated, but it is very related. Now, how come that the chairperson of the Electoral Commission has military bodyguards? Why? Who decided that as for the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, she must have military bodyguards? What is the psychological impact of that on her? So, look, in all of these discussions, I would insist that members of the commission themselves ought to take steps in order to free themselves from this siege mentality that is becoming apparent. I would advise also very, very strongly that they refrain from making comments, they themselves, from making comments which suggest that they are biased in favor of one political party or the other. And I said this in reference to a member of the commission who, without shame, without any hesitation, on radio declares that the National Democratic Congress is a threat to Ghana's democracy. Now, if you make this statement publicly, why would people not read motives into what you do? So the members of the commission themselves have a responsibility to themselves to create the conditions which enables us, ordinary citizens, to have confidence in them. To create conditions which, even if they make genuine mistakes, if they make miscalculations, we will see them as genuine mistakes and miscalculations rather than deliberate efforts to work against the interests of one political party or the other. Sena, is there any more that I have to say? Nothing more. These are the main issues. I don't have anything more to say. That's all. Finish. Let me add something small. Look, I'm listening to MPs, members of parliament, from the so-called majority side, because I still insist that there's no majority in this parliament. But from the so-called majority side, okay? And all of them are saying that, oh, as for this CI, whether anybody likes it or not, it will be laid and it will pass. And I'm sitting back and I'm just wondering. So they're saying that Parliament, they're saying that Parliament is what? I'm trying very hard to choose the appropriate, They're saying that Parliament is what some may refer to as a toothless bulldog. What they're saying is that the Electoral Commission can do anything that it likes without parliamentary oversight. Are they saying that the Electoral Commission can pack anything into a constitutional instrument, just walk to Parliament, put it on the floor, walk away, after a certain number of days it becomes law? Is that what they're telling us? I cannot accept this to be the true situation. And I don't think that the 1992 Constitution intended that any institution can walk to Parliament with a set of regulations and so on, put it on the floor, and that after a certain number of days, it will become law. I don't think that was what it was intended. Somehow, there must be ways in which Parliament as an institution representing the true sovereignty of our people, the true will of our people, ought to be able to say no to what is clearly unconstitutional and what is subversive of the citizenship of our country. Finish.
Thank you very much. In fact, that position, this Dr. Afari Djan on interferences, he says, I also hear some people say that the Electoral Commission should be left alone to do its works because it has power in law to regulate the registration of voters. Of course, it has, but that does not mean that it can do so in any way it chooses. The Electoral Commission itself knows that as a third order law, a provision in a CI cannot be offensive to a provision in a statute, let alone in a constitution. That's Dr. Afari Djan's view. Well, let me just a few messages, then we'll move on to the next discussion because I have less than 40 minutes. This one is from Salam Atok, who is in Boku, says, that card is an ECOWAS identity card. And okay. And so this argument has been made over and over again. There's Koblavi Mpokwasi Benghazi, who says a good morning. Nobody forces President Akufo-Addo to borrow money from China. So if China is chasing him for that money, he must pay the money to China. There's also, this one is from a veteran who says, I was compelled to pay 600 Ghana cedis recently in order to get a Ghana card for my son to get a passport. This is how difficult it has become to acquire the Ghana card. Go to the Ghana Card Center within Cowbank premises near Ridge Roundabout and see what is happening there. Matanaite sent that from Owusu. So those are just some of the messages. We have to move on to the next discussion that has to do with vaccines coming into this country. Solomon also rightly referred to the fact that there are vaccines in the system, and it was the indication that we have is that these vaccines will last us 6 weeks. Ideally, I've started with Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa because he's wondering why the Ghanaian government is not telling us the source of those vaccines. Yeah.
Bridget indicated that she had to go somewhere, and we agreed that for this round of conversation she would start.
The second one.
So that she can move.
Okay. Yeah. That's why I was saying ideally I've started with him. So, Beatrice Annan has. Yeah. In fact, you have less than 10 minutes.
Yes,
so
yes. I'll use less than 10 minutes. I'll defend most of the things because he's done a yeoman's job trying to expose the dishonesty of this government and in the way in which they've gone about most of the things. I mean, one would expect that when a government obviously gets certain things right, they would admit, apologize, and then try to correct the wrong, because life can be a learning curve and no one person is a repository of knowledge. But it appears to me that members of this government are engaged in some form of self-aggrandizement. I said that it appears they've created a certain utopian world and they are living in it. And so sometimes there is a disconnect between what the government does and or what it ought to do and the people. And I ask myself, is this the same Nanado and Baumia who wore one kambu? You know, Nanado had a signature look, one kambu. In recent times, they even framed it for him. And he was moving from lorry station to trotro drivers, pounding fufu, eating with people at chore bats. The same people that he moved to, today, their children's lives are threatened. In some way, somehow, the government has peddled to this honesty. You know, it's a shame. Ghana is a third world country. We have our own challenges. There are so many things that we have to be working on. But Sena, in my adult life, what I've never heard of is shortage of vaccines to fight diseases that threaten lives of children. I've never heard of it. I'm a mother. I have a child who is under 2 years, and so I still take that baby to weigh. And of all the things that we have to worry about, not to talk about our macroeconomic indicators and all those major challenges, we never, I don't know when we had to get to a stage where mothers will have to be very apprehensive about the lives of their kids, not because the kids have some sicknesses or underlying condition, but because of government complicity and duplicity and incompetence in securing vaccines. Now, Sena, let me state that when it comes to the issue of vaccine, nothing can convince me that it is not as a result of government recklessness, because there are 13 vaccines that are administered in Ghana. 10 of those vaccines are paid by a group called Gavi, Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization. They fully pay 10 vaccines. And the government of Ghana is responsible for paying for only 3 vaccines, which is the measles vaccine, the BCG for tuberculosis, and then the polio. Those are the only 3 vaccines. by some miraculous means, the 10 vaccines that Gavi pays have never been in shortage. In fact, it's still not in shortage. But the 3 that government has to pay are the vaccines which have been in shortage for a very long time. Now, when our members or the minority raise the issues of the vaccine in Parliament, one would have expected government to be candid, but some way, somehow, to insult the sensitivity and sensibilities of parents, the government came out to say that we are experiencing the shortage because there is a global shortage. Must the MPP always globalize their incompetence? Must it always be for some global reasons that they are incompetent and reckless at what they are doing? And then I've heard the Minister of Health, including the Minister of Communication, and even the President in his own State of the Nation address, with his backing vocalists, government communicators, including Solo, saying that, oh, the World Health had even said that there is a vaccine shortage. Let me put on record that the World Health Organization never said anywhere that there is shortage of vaccine. I've said that, Solo. English is not that heavy. So when we all read English, we understand English. What the World Health did was to caution countries that because we are all focused on administering the COVID vaccine, countries should pay attention and make sure that these other vaccines, which are to prevent the killer diseases, are also administered. Because I have copiously read the release by the World Health Organization. So some way, somehow, the MPP should stop globalizing their incompetence and always blaming some external factors and the World Health that they have no say in what you do in this country. Then they say that, oh, it's not an issue of money. In fact, the Minister of Health, earlier when he appeared before the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, said that because of the exchange rate issues, they could not pay for the vaccines on time. Because when they were supposed to pay for the vaccines last year, June, for some reason they didn't pay and they had to wait till December. And by then, the cedi had depreciated so much thanks to our economic messiah, Dr. Baumia, and so they could not pay, and there was a shortage. And Sena, when you see some of the scenes from the north of children contracting measles, some parents being a bit skeptical about the future because they, you know, I had a story of a woman who said she's sentimentally attached to this whole matter because her 4th child, which is supposed to be her only girl, became a child with disability because she had suffered from measles. And so the absence of vaccines is not only because somebody would die, but the effect of the sickness is that it can alter permanently the destiny of someone. And so when you hear the Minister of Health and the President, no less a person than the President, come and tell us that even the shortage of vaccine, nobody has died. So it's not such a big deal. You wonder whether, are these the people who said they have the men? Are these the people who said they know how to do it? Are these the people who said that they were so educated? Well, apart from speaking in slangs and slurring and pronouncing words and with phonetics, you can't simply do more than that. Must governance always be reduced to PR? Must governance always be reduced to let's tell the people one thing and let's do another thing? Can't we just be gracious enough and exhibit some form of honesty and even in the midst of crisis communicate in a way that people would be calm than to keep lying for the lies to be exposed one after the other and then the uncertainty of what next for parents? And so it's a shame that for all these years when you went to celebrate our independence, they're using so much money. We have to come and sit here more than 60 years to discuss the fact that something that we have not experienced in the Fourth Republic, vaccine shortage, it's not one of the challenges. We have our major challenges. Today, it has become a topical issue that we have to discuss. And you see how vociferous MPP communicators will be communicating, defending. It is happening everywhere. Why would the MPP want to take Ghana back? Already we are being told that by our macroeconomic indicators, you've taken the country back 40 years. 40 years economically. Now you want to also take away certain things that were not even our challenges. You want to create new layers of problems for us to solve. Okay. It's a shame, and I should say that it should never happen. The government should stop doing the PR. The government, when some of the vaccines arrived, we saw how the Ministry of Information quickly came to only for Son of Man to expose them. So the government should stop doing the PR. The government should stop assuming that people are not intelligent. The government should stop assuming that they could communicate their way and break the eight, and focus on the very germane and basic thing, because the expectation of every Ghanaian, whether they vote for the MPP or the NDC, is that their lives will be better. Okay. And so if you've made their lives worse, do not add that which threatens their very existence, and that which can take their life. Do not add. It's a shame that we have to discuss this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Laura Beatrice. And let me say a big thank you to Shine FM in Akachi. Is on 96.9, Hills FM in Adaklo on 91.7, Nuance Radio Ketekrachi on 89.7. There's also Sela Radio in Dabala on 97.1, Diamond FM in Tamale on 93.7, Bewa Radio Yendi on 106.5, Radio Kitaon in Sabuba on 95.7, Benya FM Elmina on 105.7, Global FM 105.1. There's also Volta 1 TV, Zebs FM 95.9 in Zabila, True FM on 92.5 in Adesu, Lamaya FM on 89.1 in Tripoli, Boem 88.7 in Jessica and Lukusi, on 96.1 in Ve Golokwati. I'll move to Solomon Owusu, but let me indicate that, like Beatrice and I indicated, you might not see her after Solo is done. So we are moving on to Solo. I want to listen to Solo on this issue.
Yes, and really the time is even up, so she could stay and listen to the few jobs before she runs away. I mean, we were discussing vaccine and moving to pounding of fufu, president flying jets, and so on and so forth. It has nothing to do with the vaccine. First of all, she discussed the issue as though nothing has happened, and that is why I go back to the Electoral Commission. The statement that they claim is attributed to Boss Masari, that the NDC is a danger to our democracy. And I agree with him if indeed he uttered those words. Here is a government. We are faced with shortage of vaccine. Any well-meaning Ghanaian has criticized the government for, first of all, allowing that situation to even permeate. It was uncalled for, it was needless for us to have experienced that situation. And I remember on this platform, I called for the head of the finance minister because I had to do with finance. If monies have been released to the Ministry of Health and by extension the Ghana Health Service, definitely the vaccines would have been procured. Now, the Ministry of Health, and for that matter, the Minister of Health, was hauled before Parliament. And he gave the assurance that, yes, vaccines will arrive in this country in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Now, when he made those statements, a day after, vaccines arrived in this country. So I was thinking today we were going to look at the way forward so that this situation does not reoccur. Then I came to see the topic, Nigeria gives vaccines to Ghana, attributed to my brother Sani Okudzeto. What does that got to do with the vaccine? Since when did we receive vaccines in this country and we are told the source of the vaccine? The country from which the vaccine was gotten from. What is the relevance of this whole thing to the vaccines that kids are already getting. So I was so surprised that he could come with, must we create any politics out of any situation? So we got the vaccines from Nigeria, and so what? The crux of the matter is that we need the vaccines. And whether we got it from Azerbaijan, we got it from Afghanistan, it's still vaccine. So long as it's a, what do you call it? A quality vaccine. And so really, there is not much to discuss, except that our brothers in the NDC seem not to have any message for Ghanaians. So it is their prayer always and always that this government will be engulfed into a lot of problems, and then they will turn the problems of the government into their campaign message without them having any clear-cut message. It is true that the country is going through financial challenges, and that explains why even at a point in our history we have to embark on domestic debt exchange. So if we are in financial difficulty and vaccines are delaying, that is where our focus must be. But as to whether it came from Nigeria, and again, the same report that we are talking about, my brother never gave us even any evidence. This one is just what I call throwing something into the air. As we speak, he has not shown any Ghanaian any official document to prove what he said, that the vaccines were gotten from Nigeria. Where from the evidence?
Neither has it been denied.
But why must we deny anything that he says? Then the government will set up a ministry for Okudzeto. That every day we have to be responding to his allegations. He himself that said the vaccines came from Nigeria also says, oh, it will be replaced. So if it will be replaced, what's the point? So it means it's not for a dash. It's a sister nation. We are all part of ECOWAS. Assuming that were even the case, what is wrong with going to your brothers to say, look, we have imported vaccines. It will get to the country in 2 weeks' time. We know you have some. So give yours so that 1 hour's come, we will replace it. What is the essence of the ECOWAS? That we are all joining. So clearly, there is nothing to discuss except that our brothers are not putting their asses together. They want bad news always, where they can ride on. Now, there seems not to be any issue with the cathedral, so my brother is not finding his voice again. There seems not to be, what do you call it, presidential. Now you have stopped coming out with, what do you call it, trackers.
The sky buffs.
The president stopped here, stopped that. That's what you're doing. So he wants to introduce the third element, which is vaccine. So tomorrow he will come and tell us that, oh, the other one that is coming was gotten from Algeria. Then we will be discussing that. I don't think that is the way to go. For me, the most important thing is that we have the vaccines, and I will plead with all parents, mothers that could not get their kids, have the vaccines for them, not to make the mistake of denying them. Now that we have it in abundance, they should go for it. And going for it, the ministry must do everything possible. That these ones are not negotiable. It's not negotiable that we will be in a country where mothers will not be having vaccine for their kids. We all could have been in the situation that others are in, but for the fact that we had access to these vaccines. So we cannot play with it. But in terms of whether we got it from even Burkina, it does not matter. Now to deal with one or two issues in the first topic.
I apologize.
I have 2 minutes.
No, you don't. You don't.
Is my time up?
No, you don't. Your time is up.
What's your time now?
Please give me 2 minutes of my time.
That is not, so is
Okay.
2 minutes of my
Yeah.
time.
No, but he is the one who's lent you time. So
that's why I'm grateful to him, not grateful to you. You were taking the time.
I'm not taking
So-
So all you know what he's going to say is going to destroy everything he said.
That is
So you
it.
give
Yeah,
me
okay.
2 minutes.
So the first thing has to do with the fact that my sister who has just left says we are going to use the CI, the proposed CI, to rig the 2024 elections. How is that possible? Who can say for a fact that those that are yet to register are members of the NDC? Is it a case that the NDC has other people sitting somewhere that they intend to bring to this country to use the guarantor system to fight for them so that they come and vote for the NDC? That's why she's saying that. It cannot be. Then I was struggling to also link the number of soldiers guiding the Electoral Commission to the pending elections. Mr. Pratt, you know very well that the way and manner Jane Mensah has been bastardized in this country, has been accused of rigging elections for the MPP. No government will sit down and not provide maximum security. That would be shocking responsibility. So for me, if these soldiers will be able to protect her, the last time the Speaker of Parliament was also calling for reinforcement. It's normal. If the country is in a position to protect people who are put into position, then that cannot be linked to any elections in this country. After all, it was the same Jane Mensah and her members that pronounced the 137 members of Parliament from the NDC as victors in their various elections. Nobody complained about that. It was the same person that supervised the narrowing of the gap between the NDC and MPP in terms of presidential votes from the 1.2 or so million to 500,000. Nobody has said anything against that. So if today she is being offered the opportunity to be safe, after all, members of Parliament, now they enjoy police escort. It's to save them. And I agree that if there are avenues for them to even have military reinforcement, there should not be anything bad about that. Okay. But to link it to the fact that it is a way of letting her get away with so many things, I do not think, especially when the conclusion from the Special Budget Committee, the Special Budget Committee of Parliament involves NDC and MPP. At that level, all of them agree that if the EC can assure them that every Ghanaian will be allowed, of 18 years and will be allowed to register, then she can go ahead with the laying of the CI. Why would anybody think that Jane Mensah has any authority or any magic wand to rig an election? Okay. Can anybody think that MPP can go and rig election in North Tong? Okay. It's practically impossible.
Solo, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is lawyer David Ametepe who says, good morning. Uncle Pratt said the EC has managed to get away with many things by playing the MPP-NDC thing. That is correct. Uncle Pratt has also observed the military protection Jane Mensah has been provided with in her house, which is a sense of unique invulnerability that is also correct. But what Uncle Pratt didn't say is the protection Jane Mensah enjoys from the courts. If indeed a state institution, a constitutional body is misbehaving, and the issues turn on the interpretation or application of law, but citizens are not interested or afraid to go to court, it is the courts and not the citizens who are the real problem.
Well, Sena, let me say that it has been very, very difficult to control myself listening to Solo and not to burst out laughing, because he really has been
landing a punch on his nose.
He's really been hilarious. Except that, Sena, the matters in issue are not funny matters. They are not matters for comedy, for comic relief. They are not jokes. These are matters that relate to lives. Vaccines are life and death matters. They are matters that border on the well-being of our children. How they grow. How they are not subjected to permanent impairments, disabilities. I listened to Dr. Abdallah, the neurosurgeon, who said that if the situation continues, we will soon have adults who have brains of 5-year-olds. They will be 40 years, 50 years, but we will have incapacitated them. We will have destroyed their lives. So this matter is a very, very serious one. Now, why did I have to delve into this matter and to work my diplomatic sources as ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee to find out exactly what is happening? I had to do that because the president came to Parliament and told us, I have a copy of the message on the State of the Nation here. At page 18, these are the president's words. Mr. Speaker, I must say, however, that the current shortage of some childhood vaccines in the country has concerned me greatly. This shortage, if prolonged, will affect negatively Ghana's childhood immunization program, which has been recognized as one of the most successful in the world. The WHO, this is the part. The WHO has only recently expressed worry about a steady decline in measles vaccination coverage globally because of the concentration on the fight against COVID-19. Unquote. The health minister also appeared before us in Parliament and said that we were facing global shortage. This is a global challenge. You heard MPP communicators all over the place. So, when news broke, government propagandists were all over that they have just received the vaccines that they ordered. The first consignment has arrived. We decided to carry out some checks. The checks we carried out revealed unimpeachably, unassailably, you cannot attempt to even discredit the outcome of our findings. It has emerged that apparently there was no global shortage and that our neighbors do not only have the vaccines, they have excess. And our government knew that. So, whereas the president came to Parliament and told us in his message of the State of the Nation that there is a global shortage, globalizing their incompetence, globalizing their cruelty, globalizing their ineptitude, their visionlessness, they knew in their heart of hearts that there was no global shortage and that all our neighbors have it. So, the diplomatic sources have confirmed to us that our president reached out to his counterpart in Nigeria and begged for these vaccines, and that the vaccines we have received came from Nigeria. He has also reached out to his Ivorian counterpart, and the Ivorians will be bailing us out shortly. We are still tracking that as well. Now, this reveals gross ineptitude, deception, blatant lies. It means that the current leadership have no respect for the Ghanaian people. Look, consider the population of Nigeria, in excess of 250 million. They have these vaccines and they have excess to give us some of their excess supply, which will last us for 6 weeks. That even raises issues. Now, what this means is that if what we have ordered does not come in the next few weeks, we'll be back to a shortage situation because the consignment Nigeria has given us will last for only 6 weeks. Now, as part of the work we have done, the WHO has confirmed that as far back as July last year, they warned the Ghanaian government. My diplomatic sources have told me that in July last year, they told our health minister that there will be stock out by end of year 2022. If we did not place the orders for these 3 vaccines, there will be shortage. Because of incompetence, because of ineptitude And I have always wondered, I've said that on the floor of Parliament, I've said that publicly, that this health minister has no business remaining at post, particularly after the Sputnik V scandal, when a bipartisan committee indicted him. What is pending is the vote of censure, which has not been programmed for the vote. This minister has absolutely no business remaining at post. And to even imagine, Sena, that this health minister, after this incompetence, this negligence, gross negligence, and dereliction of duty, this same week, as he has been exposed, as Nigeria desperately bails us out, he is receiving the highest national award. Can you believe that? This health minister, in the midst of all of this crisis is created, this disaster, he is receiving a national award. I know deep down in Solo's heart, he's embarrassed by this. He can't believe it, but he has to try and save some face. Can you believe that, Sena? Look, this is a country that has money for all kinds of useless things. We did the analysis of 9 months expenditure at the presidency last year, between January and September. Can you believe that the president spent 59.4 million on what he calls operational enhancement expenditure at the presidency? He spent 51 million on fuel, 16 million Ghana cedis for his regional tour, 16.9 million. He spent 15 million cedis at the presidency for car tires and batteries. All we needed to order these vaccines, July last year, was $6 million.
What's the source of this?
This is from the source of this. I can give you the original. This is from the chart of account, an analysis I have made from the chart of account,
It's an analysis.
presented to the Finance Committee of Parliament. And the chart of account is here. I know this is a deliberate attempt to derail my thoughts, but I can give you the original copy. I don't know if you know what the chart of account is. That is it. The expenditure at the presidency. Yes, so you see, you can just confirm the figures. On internet at the presidency, 20 million Ghana cedis for 9 months. Cabinet retreat, one cabinet retreat at Peduasi, 4.8 million Ghana cedis. Office equipment and furniture. In these times, in the midst of the crisis we find ourselves in, 7.7 million Ghana cedis. Is this a time to be sprucing furniture at the presidency? Payment for new vehicles at the presidency, 6.5 million Ghana cedis. The Independence Day at Cape Coast last year, 10.4 million Ghana cedis. It's all here. You can go through the chart of account. This $6 million we needed to stop this vaccine shortage is the same amount we gave to that American crook called Carrie Summers, that he is going to raise funds for the National Cathedral. We gave him $6 million as a dash. Meanwhile, this is a man who works based on commission. When he worked for the Americans, he did fundraising and they paid him a percentage of what he raised. In Ghana, he hasn't raised a dime. We have given him $6 million. Carrie Summers, that American shonky character, is holding on to our $6 million. Okay. See how much we spent on the National Cathedral so far. 339 million Ghana cedis. $58 million at the time, the exchange rate at the time. Today, $58 million will be in excess of 600 million Ghana cedis.
Unfortunately, I have fully.
We are able to spend 20,000 euros an hour on chartered jets, and I'm glad Solo.
You don't provide any invoices.
Please. You asked for evidence. I've just given you evidence on the chart of accounts. You just had it. Look. What is clear is that so far, in the pursuit of my constitutional mandate of oversight, there is absolutely nothing that I've put out which has not been corroborated, which has turned out to be false. There's nothing. The presidential luxury charters, what became known as the Skybab scandal, has been confirmed by the presidency.
President has never confirmed.
National Cathedral, everything I've put out has been confirmed, including the double identity scandal.
Has not confirmed your
everything.
Euro. Let's put it
everything has been confirmed. Everything. And these vaccines, they cannot deny it.
That
it came from China. Sorry, from Nigeria.
Well, what is the big deal about it coming from Nigeria?
Yeah. Okay. The big deal is that you were peddling falsehood to the Ghanaian people that there is global shortage.
I think you've already responded to that question.
You came to Parliament. The president came to Parliament and told us that there's global shortage. It turns out that all our neighbors have
excess. We are talking about
and you are begging them.
Thank you. We don't have vaccine shortage now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I have to allow Kwesi Pratt to also share his view on this.
This country with conscience.
Come with your policies and this. You have no policy. You come.
Thank you. Please, Mr. Pratt.
Anyway, I like to believe that when Solo suggested the establishment of a ministry responsible for Okudzeto affairs, he was only saying so in jest. The number of ministers we have now is too many. Don't bring another minister for Okudzeto affairs. I beg you, advise your people. That one need to be too much.
But they say they will not approve those that we send there. Yeah, they are going to approve. They are part of
Minister for Okudzeto affairs.
No, we are not going to. That is you.
Don't do that to me. I don't need a ministry.
No, you get your ministry. Don't worry.
Well, I think we don't have a lot of time. And again, I think that the issues are very simple. You know, it is important that the vaccines we've got are coming from Nigeria. That's an important issue. It's an important issue because Nigeria is only 45 minutes away from Ghana by air. So if there's a global shortage of vaccines, it would be strange if Nigeria does not experience that global shortage of vaccines. And Nigeria is able to import in excess of its needs and can have surplus to give to Ghana. That is why where the vaccines come from are important. You understand? It's not because Nigeria is a fanciful country or anything.
It has not been established. You didn't give us documents to suggest. No, you should help us with documents. Everything you show documents. Then this one should have shown us the document that it was important.
So where is your document that it was imported from Nigeria?
Where did it come from? He who alleges must prove. You are alleging that
it's not in doubt at all. Mr. Pratt's time. Can you please allow him?
After surrendering 2 minutes of my time to you.
You are sharing. There's two of us that are sharing.
So that is why Nigeria is important. But for me, the most shocking thing about the shortage of vaccines is not the shortage itself, but the fact that our Minister of Health can look us in the face and say that nobody has died so far, so it is okay.
Yeah, the president too said that.
I beg, one step at a time. And that this very statement is repeated by the president. And this is so very shocking, it's unbelievable. That nobody has died, so we should be okay. You know. I was tempted to tell my own story as a child, but I'll save it for another day. You see me walking now. When I was a little kid, I couldn't walk. You understand? So my own experiences tell me the consequences and so on. And if you're going to be reckless with everything, please do not extend that recklessness to the health of children.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt.
There's another small point that I wanted to make about the elections and how elections are rigged and whether they are rigged or not rigged and so on. You see, I think we should take ourselves seriously. Yeah. When you have a leading member of a political party, indeed a presidential aspirant of a political party, sit on television, look us all in the face and say, look, if you joke with me, I will say the truth, and the truth will bring the party down. Yeah. And that as for how we won the election, the little said about it, the better. Yeah. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, for me, he keeps saying this.
Who is the he?
You all know the person you are referring to. He keeps saying it without providing evidence. I don't know why anybody is taking him on that. If there is anything criminal in nature that was done in the last elections, Why must he not say it? Why must someone dare him? You claim to be a good citizen of this country. You want to lead this country. Why must anybody dare you before you speak the truth? When especially you have created the impression that you are an apostle of truth. Well, it doesn't add up.
Okay.
It doesn't add up.
I'm hoping that Kwesi Pratt landed on there.
Yeah, Sena, I've just been wondering, this Akufo-Addo presidency, apart from their familial members, family and friends, who really did they come for? Babies, children can't get vaccines. The youth, unemployment is at an all-time high. Look at what's happening to NAPCO trainees, the NAPCO workers, and all of those in the youth category who can't find jobs. Total hopelessness. Then for the first time, senior citizens who are up in arms, they have to be picketing for their life savings, their investments. You have a whole former Supreme Court, the Chief Justice, having to spend her retirement at the frontage of the Ministry of Finance. So all the strata, the various categories of Ghanaian people, babies under threat, the youth
is that
under
your campaign
threat.
Message?
Elders too, we are pushing them to early grade.
Is that the NDC's campaign message?
What is going on? What
Come with
kind
a
of
plan.
government
What
is
plan do you have as opposition party?
Well, this is Hadi in Pig Farm, who says, whose interest is this EC chair working tirelessly to protect? Is it the Ghanaian taxpayers or her appointing authority? Why are we living in a country as if Jim Mensah knows what is better for us than we, the citizens? We can't allow one greedy woman to destroy the peace of our nation. That's coming from Hadi in Pig Farm. Let me extend condolences to Justice Tapia. Justice Tapia is one of our colleagues here at Pan-African Television, who is burying his brother today. So our condolences to Justice Tapia, who is the host of Hot News, is what he's famously known for. He hosted from Mondays to Fridays at 9 p.m. Today, he's burying his brother, and condolences to him. And let me say happy birthday to Patrick Kugbe Sika, who celebrated a belated happy birthday to you, actually. Today is also the birthday of Mr. Sylvanus Zaga, Jutad Adjoa, and of course, Brian of Afofe, who is watching us currently. Happy birthday to you. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. Until then, let me say a big thank you to Kwesi Pratt Jnr, who started the show as contributor and host. A very big thank you. And of course, yes, that would be great. That would be great. We know we have a very committed followership in the Tong areas,
yes,
the three Tong areas. I know for sure. And also a big thank you to Mr. Solomon Owusu, who is a member of the communication team of the New Patriotic Party.
And preach the gospel according to Alan.
Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is member of Parliament for North Tong, ranking member on the Foreign Affairs Committee of Parliament. And of course, we're glad to have been joined by lawyer Beatrice Anna, who is deputy spokesperson for the John Dramani Mahama campaign. Was recently in Bono East, Bono and Ahafo. She says they are going to the Ashanti region. That's why she's taking an early leave. A big thank you from my producers and, of course, the crew here at Pan-African Television. Thank you very much for making time. The show was live on Pan-African Television, so live on Radio Gold, and several other affiliates. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. Enjoy a weekend and have a fun day.
To lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He
truly African.
Well.